Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. We are driving into Atlanta to go do a little bit of shopping, and actually my sister and my niece are in town, so we're going to visit them as well. And while I was driving, I thought I would talk about 3 things that are kind of cool. Number 1 is that full self-driving beta is apparently rolling out to quite a few more people shortly, and hopefully I'll be one of them. Number 2 is that we found out that your Tesla app can actually spy on you. And number 3 is Dear Moon. Alrighty, so let's talk about the first one. Is kind of fun, which was that my wife one day when I was driving said, "Hey, you're on such and such road going 35 miles an hour." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "I've opened up the Tesla app and I can see how fast you're going and what streets you're on." And I was like, "I didn't know that." Yeah, she's like, she shouldn't have said anything because she'd always be able to spy on me. Not that I'm ever going anywhere that I said I'm not going to, but I was like, man, you probably ought to know about that if you're in a situation where you don't want your partner to know.
Better take the beater car.
See, there's an advantage of an ICE car. I actually looked myself to see, and I have no idea if there's any way to turn that off. So just a little bit of word of
Why
FYI.
do you want to turn it off?
I don't want to turn it off. I just said in case somebody did, you know. There's no like stealth mode for your Tesla as far as I can tell. So anyway, that's just a rather fun and interesting little fact there, unless you're trying to do something nefarious, in which case you might want to know something about that. The second thing I just want to say real quick is that the Dear Moon project is now taking applicants for 8 astronauts to go around the moon. And I'm totally blanking on his name. Oh gosh, it starts with an M. Anyway, I'll put it underneath. I'm so sorry. It's what happens when you're driving. You can't remember what people's names are, and I'm bad with names to start with. But anyway, he is taking applications for 8 other astronauts. I already, of course, applied, or not really applied, but entered the contest for the orbital mission that's supposed to happen this fall. But this one is different because this is supposed to be in Starship, and it's supposed to happen in 2023, although in all honesty, it's probably going to be a year to 2 years after that, but who knows. But anyway, 8 chances instead of 1, so I'm definitely going to do an application for that as soon as I can. I'm trying to remember what the last date is. I think it's either mid-March or the end of March is the sort of due date for filling that out. But I will definitely do that because why not? I mean, might as well increase your chances. I think this is kind of cool right now that us normal human beings that don't have millions of dollars lying around can, or billions in some cases, can actually go ahead and apply and try to become astronauts and fly with the ultra wealthy and the ultra cool. So anyway, I'm definitely up for the challenge. I think that would be an amazing trip. So FYI, in case you don't know, at least what it was a couple of years ago when they first announced it, is that the Starship with the Super Heavy underneath it is going to take off. It's going to go into orbit, and it's basically going to fly something akin to what the Apollo 8 mission was in 1968, which is that it will fly a figure 8 around the moon. It's a free return trajectory. So basically it gets to the opposite side of Earth from where the moon is, fires the engines again for a period of time until it starts going fast enough, right? And if you know anything about orbital mechanics, what happens is on the opposite side from where you actually fire the engines, you raise the orbit up by creating a delta V. And so essentially what you do is you make the orbit around the Earth as elliptical as necessary until that orbital path crosses the gravitational well of the moon, at which point, so the moon has to, go into that path. So there's a lot of calculations here. It's not simple stuff, it's rocket science. But anyway, what happens is you get captured by the moon's gravity. So as you're going out like this, the moon then, so you'd be in an orbit, and without the moon there, you just fall back towards the Earth again. But what happens is you get up close to the moon, and the moon captures you, and it pulls you into orbit. And then if you want to enter orbit around the moon, you have to do a retro burn on the far side of the moon to slow yourself down enough to get into a more or less circular orbit around the moon. But if you don't do that, you just keep on going and you come right back to Earth. It makes a big giant figure 8. So right, Earth, up here to the moon, and back again, because you're going fast enough when you go around the moon that you'll get captured by the Earth's gravity on the far side and come back again. So that's what I recall as the flight path that they were planning on taking. I don't believe that they're planning on doing an orbital burn to enter orbit, but who knows? I mean, in another couple of years, they might decide to do that. So originally, Apollo 8's plan was to do a free return trajectory and actually just do the orbit around the moon once and come back again. But they decided that they would go ahead and do a retro burn, and if I'm remembering correctly, they did 10 orbits of the moon, something like that. So they actually came in and they did a retro burn to slow themselves down again. So they entered an orbit around the moon, they did 10 orbits, and then on the far side, they flipped the ship around, they fired forward, raised the apogee or whatever it is, the apoapsis for the moon to get high enough that the Earth's gravity was stronger, and then the Earth took it over and pulled it back to Earth again, at which point they fell towards Earth. Essentially, you fall, right? All of this is just falling with style. It's like what Buzz Lightyear said.
Thank you all. Thank you.
That wasn't flying. That was falling with style.
So you're falling, and then they crossed into the Earth's atmosphere as they fell. I think on the far side of the Earth. And so anyway, it was the Pacific Ocean. They fell into the Earth's atmosphere going at a screaming, I remember it being 25,000 miles an hour, so 40,000 kilometers an hour, something along those lines. And as they came back again, then they were slowed down by the Earth's atmosphere and they fell into the ocean. Used their, parachutes and whatnot to get back in again. So anyway, that was the basic plan, and this plan is supposedly even simpler than that. It's going to be a single burn on the Starship, which will take it to the moon. It'll then whip around the moon and come back again. So there's really it's a very technically easy thing after you do that initial burn, because the whole rest of the flight is just it's just Newton. It's just going around in Newtonian mechanics to fall back towards the Earth again. So I don't know if they'll decide to do another burn on the far side of the moon and enter orbit, but the plan the last time I saw was not to have that. It was to go and just do a free return trajectory and come right back to Earth again. So anyway, that's super cool. If you want to apply, it's dearmoon.earth is, I believe, what the website is for you to apply to become an astronaut and join the mission. And the last awesome thing I want to talk about, which is super, super awesome and much more of a possibility for us normal humans, is that Elon Musk in the last few days has started talking about full self-driving beta. It's 8 point something, I think either 1 or 2. Anyway, that supposedly they're going to double the number of beta testers for that, and that should happen relatively soon. And I believe that's when we're getting to the step change, although it might be version 9. But anyway, and the step change, I talked about it in a previous video, so you can check that out if you're interested. But anyway, that will expand to double the size, and then Musk is saying that the next version, I guess, which I think is version 9, after that, which hopefully is just a couple of months away, will actually 10x the number of people. So I don't know the exact number. I think it's around 1,000 that are the current beta testers. But so double would be 2,000, and then 10x is either going to be 10,000 or 20,000, depending on where the 10x is coming from. So anyway, that's fantastic news. That means that hopefully a lot of people who have full self-driving beta right now, like I do, and I'm actually using it right now. I've got my hand on the wheel, but the car is driving itself right now. But I'm using the publicly available beta version, right? It's really hard to kind of there's the beta and then there's the private beta, so I guess that's the way. So this is the public beta. This is the version that's kind of out right now. But the private beta version should go public to about 2,000 people, if I've got my numbers correct, in the next iteration, which could happen in the next couple of weeks, and then it will go to like 10 to 20,000 people in the next version. So that starts to become a significant number of people. Obviously, Elon Musk has said that they're going to handle this very, very carefully. Again, I talked about this in a previous episode, but if they don't do this carefully, the public relations hit that they could take if anything bad happened would be absolutely horrible. So they've got to be very careful. I'm sure they're going to look at people's driving records, at the amount of miles that they've put on in terms of autopilot. So that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this right now. And also, of course, people who are safe drivers, etc. So anyway, hopefully that will mean that by the next month to 6 weeks, they will have jumped to that sort of 10x version of the beta, and it will be much more public. Of course, it will also be much less interesting to people because so many people will have it that there will be it won't be quite such a special thing to have full self-driving beta anymore. But that's okay with me because I can't wait to test this thing out. I am planning on doing a lot of interesting tests, and I've already picked a bunch of roads, as I'm sure you've seen if you watch my channel for a while. But anyway, we will see how that goes. I am really excited about that, and that is something that we can all look forward to if we've got full self-driving beta if you live in the United States. I really don't think that it looks like it's going to be released in other countries until they get it pretty well squared away in the United States. It's unfortunate. I feel really bad for all of the people who are my friends and people who follow this channel who are international. But from a technical standpoint, it really makes an awful lot of sense for them to do that this way, because you don't want to start diluting, or essentially what happens when you do neural network training. And if you recall from a previous video, what they're doing is they're replacing the entire network stack from hard-coded stuff to neural network, deep neural network models. And what they're trying to do right now is kind of overfit on the United States, which basically means that they're taking the model and they're making it as good as possible for roads and traffic conditions and signs, etc., within the United States itself. And you don't want to then attempt to then train it on Germany, or especially a country like England or Australia, which is like opposite side driving, which is going to be really a mess for it to learn. So I'm sure they're collecting the data there, but my guess is that what they will do is overfit it to the United States, get it to kind of like 90-95% of the way there, you know, almost perfect. And once it gets there, they will then start taking data, and they're probably already doing this, honestly, but they'll take data from other right-hand sided roads first, countries that drive on the right-hand side of the road. They'll take data from them first. They will utilize the United States trained model and then refit it to that country. So every country ultimately will get its own model, but it will be based originally on the United States model. And of course, the downside for people who live in left-hand driving countries, which is a lot, like Australia and Japan, and yeah, there's a police car coming, police car, so I can't quite get out of the way because there's too much traffic, but I am going to slow down for the police car. So I am doing what I'm doing the slow down and move over thing. So I couldn't move over, but I could at least slow down. So anyway, they will release it, I'm guessing, to other right-hand side countries first, because it will be much easier to retrain the network on that. And then the last people who will get it, unfortunately, will be those who are in left-hand driving countries. So that's a large percentage of the world's population, but it's also, I believe, is going to be a significantly higher degree of challenge than one right-hand side country to another. Because of course, switching from like the United States to Canada, like you have to go to kilometers an hour, and there are signs that are different in Canada, but they're not that different. So, you know, and then in other countries, of course, you'll have other languages besides English, like Germany or something, and again, that's kilometers per hour, but I don't imagine that's going to be drastically difficult for the training to sort of refit itself for those other circumstances. So anyway, I think that's fantastic news. I'm really looking forward to the possibility. Elon Musk asked people to sign up, or basically say if they were interested in doing it, but I don't know if there's any official way, so I kind of tweeted that I was interested, but I have no idea if that's good enough for what they're doing. Let me sneak over here.
Can you explain to me what the difference is between the public beta and the special beta?
There you go. All right, my wife has a question. She gets the bonus because she's in the car with me. So she asked the difference between the public beta and the private beta. So the current version that everybody's using right now, well, except for the people who have the private beta, so me and everybody else who's purchased full self-driving with their Tesla, is using what's still considered a beta. This is not officially released software that's like version 1.0 or whatever. It's still considered beta officially. So that's, all of them are beta software. None of them are officially released. And honestly, I don't know. I mean, until they actually have robo-taxis or something, I guess it's always going to be a beta. But that's available to anybody. If I go to Tesla and I plunk down my money, or even if I own a Tesla already and don't have full self-driving, I can pay an upgrade fee, which is $10,000 right now, which is a lot. But that will give me privilege of using the full self-driving beta. But the private beta is only released to people who have special dispensation from Tesla. They don't really explain what their criteria is, but I know from from emailing with Andre Carpathy that some of it has to do with driving record, some of it has to do with how long people have owned their Teslas, so it's generally people who've had their Teslas for many years in this first group, right? And then some of it, he also said, was geographical. So I think they originally had people only in California, but then as they expanded this initial beta release, I know there are people in at least Alabama. I'm not positive I've seen anyone from Georgia with it, but I think that they're attempting, and then of course there's people from like the northern Midwest and all sorts of other places. So clearly what they're trying to do is distribute the people who are driving around the country so that they have as many geographies as possible, probably as many different weather patterns as possible, right? So a person who lives in Michigan or something is going to have snow and sleet and things like that, that obviously Los Angeles in general at least is not going to have. So that's the difference between them. They're both beta software, but one is available to anybody who wants it and the other one is private and only Tesla's giving it away. So anyway, the good news is, of course, that we are going to get more people who will be allowed to use the private beta. Again, that's going to be totally up to Tesla as to who they pick for it. But anyway, it will be up to them to pick who it is, but it's going to be many, many more people than it currently is right now. So that's fantastic news. And also, I think that's really, really good news in terms of what Tesla is thinking about the quality of their software. Because what it means to me is that they're confident enough in their software right now that they believe that it is good enough that they can actually use. Oh, it always freaks me out when this thing decides it wants to turn on the highway. Sorry. Even the version that's the public beta is pretty darn cool. The fact that it's got Mad Max and just goes out of the other way. But anyway, it's amazing to think, and Elon actually might be right this time. Everyone keeps saying Elon time. In terms of the level 4, level 5 autonomy, which of course is the car is driving itself either almost all the time or all the time. But if they're releasing this to more people, they think that they've got a winner, right? They think they've got something good on their hands. Otherwise, they would keep it mum and they would keep testing it at the smaller group of people. So I think that's all exciting news. It's great news for Tesla, great news for the potential for full self-driving. I'm not a stock analyst, I'm not giving predictions right now, but the fact that Tesla's stock is so depressed right now probably means it's a sale. I really wish I had some money to invest right now. But anyway, all of this is really good news and probably is going to impact their the stock price, Tesla stock price over the coming years in a really, really positive way if they get close to, even if it's just L4 autonomy and not L5, even if they can't do robo-taxis, if I can get in the car and basically not have to pay attention to my car and it will drive me to where I'm going, which is Atlanta, it's like an hour-long drive. If I can just do that and not have to worry about it ever, even if I can't make money off it with a robo-taxi, because honestly, I like my car. I don't really want anybody to hurt it. So I might not put it in the robo-taxi fleet, but I would definitely pay the money to not have to think about my car and just let it drive me where I'm going. That's fantastic news. So anyway, lots of really exciting and cool news, stuff that's very, you can get pumped up about, some of which will be very few people will be able to go, like, oh my gosh, it's a gas car next to me. How loud is that thing? But anyway, only 8 people are going to get to go to the moon, but there's going to be thousands of people who will be driving Tesla's new version of the beta software soon. So all this stuff is fantastic. Anyway, hopefully you found this episode fun and enjoyable. If you did, definitely don't forget to like and subscribe so you can see more of this and other people can find this video as well. Also, a big shout out to my patrons on Patreon. You all are wonderful. Thank you all so much for the support. And of course, don't forget about our merch store, which has a lot of cool stuff, including this Tesla bot hoodie. And also don't forget that we are Tesla and Amazon affiliates. If you check the links, all that stuff is in the description. You know where to look, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, in the meantime, definitely ask me questions in the comments or at my email address, which is drknowitallknows@gmail.com. Till next time, bye-bye.